Welcome to the fourth clip in which we will address the EU as an example of the construction of a common market first and then a single market. I would like to stress that this is one of the most studied aspects of European integration process. The common market has been studied because of its success. This was started by the Rome Treaty in 1957, which provided for the creation of a common market within 10 years. In fact, this was done quicker than expected in 9 years, and it was extremely successful in economic terms. The creation of the common market with also a custom union, so with a common external tariff outside the common market, was extremely successful. It provided for the six funding members, France, Germany, Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg, for very, very significant growth rate, much higher than the rest of Western Europe. We should not forget that at the same time that the common market was created, the United Kingdom launched the European Free Trade Area, which was supposed to be the alternative to the common market, which unfortunately for the 7 member states that created the European Free Trade Area didn't work, or at least it didn't work as much as the common market. European Free Trade Area did not provide the same level of economic growth for its members, and this was one of the reasons why basically all of them, bit by bit, asked to join the European Economic Community or later the European Union. So the common market was extremely successful. We often have this expression in the various languages of the 6 founding members. In Italian is il miracolo economico europeo, the Italian economic miracle, but a similar expression exists in French and in German. But this was no German, French, or Italian economic miracle. It was the common market economic miracle. So all the members of the common market has basically the same level of economic growth, which was almost double those of the rest of Western Europe, so the UK, Spain, and so on. So this was the great success of the common market, which helped create a bulk of pro-European support in the public opinion of the 6 founding member states. And the reason for this success was linked to the dimension of the market. Already in just after the Second World War, Luigi Einaudi, a great liberal economist and the first president of the Italian Republic, has suggested that technology require larger market than in the past to be exploited successfully from an economic point of view. And in fact, since the second industrial revolution in 1870, the United States, which already had a continent-wide market, starting to grow more than the European states, even if the European states at the time were still the main great power in the international arena. And this gap in economic growth continued to increase until the United States were growing twice as much as the European states just after the Second World War. And this gap start to decrease with the common market, but only for the 6 members of the common market. And this shows how important the dimension of the market is to exploit technology from an economic perspective, and how the prosperity of Western Europe rests and depends on the common market. Later on, we had a number of crises in the 70s linked to the collapse of the Bretton Woods international monetary system and the oil shock that was related to this international monetary system collapse, and so on. And Europeans tried to relaunch their economy through a further step in their integration, moving from the common market to the single market. The single market provided not just for the free circulation of goods, but also of services, people, and capitals. So it was freedom of movement for all factors of production. The 4 freedom of movement were all established by 1992, and this provided a huge boost for economic growth in the EU for its member states. So again, this was another step from the common market to the single market, with allowing freedom of movement for all factors of production, including labor, capitals, and services, beside goods, like in the common market. It was strengthened by an unparalleled degree of solidarity, because the basic idea underlying the single market was that the market is very effective in ensuring the best distribution of capital and the best division of labor. But this doesn't mean that this more efficient distribution is also territorially fair. So there may be member states that have a lower level of infrastructure or other reason that have joined the European community later on, and so on. So they require some help in order to start on an equal footing with the other and being able to exploit the opportunities offered by the single market. So while creating the single market, at the same time, the now called European Community, created the structural fund, the European social policy, the European cohesion policy, which were tools of solidarity, internal solidarity, by which the community provided funding for the poorest region in the community, in order to close the infrastructural gap and to have investment on human capital and infrastructure and so on, so that they could also compete on a fair level, on an equal basis with the other region in the single market. So this is very interesting as a comparison also to the creation of a global market under globalization, which had no such solidarity measure, no cohesion policy, no solidarity, no social policy, and so on. So the way that the European Union created the common market first, which also included a significant solidarity through the European Investment Bank, which was supposed to invest in those countries where there was a significant infrastructural gap, which it did, and with the single market that was linked to the creation of the cohesion and social policy. So we see that the market went hand to hand with solidarity, and this is an important lesson to be drawn also for the rest of the world, in my view. Thank you for your attention.